Hi there, Abhik here. Welcome to episode 3 of NextJS and Tests, and throughout this episode I will create cart detail page with tests, and lastly we will understand and solve the dreaded act warning. So this is the rough outline of our cart detail page. So this first box here will show the total price of our cart. Okay, and then this box, this big rectangle, will have all the line items mapped one by one, and in the last two buttons, the first one will be empty cart button. So when you press this button, our cart will be empty, and the second button will be go to checkout page. So this will be another button. And about these line items, each line item will have the product's name or the line item's name, the price formatted in a way such as the price of that item multiplied by the quantity and equal to the total price now. This price of the base price multiplied by the quantity and the total price. And then it will have a button, a green button, which will increment the quantity, the quantity itself, and then a button to decrement the quantity. When our cart is empty, we want it to show our heading as please buy something from our store. Now before creating the cart detail page and cart detail tests and all, I will go to my app.js and create a cart. I will use state. So use state should be imported. Then to retrieve the cart, I will use effect. Now inside this use effect, await. And to use await, we need to make this an async function, await commerce. Now remember in episode 1 we created this commerce. So commerce dot cart dot retrieve, and that's it. It will get the cart, and then what I will do is I will use set cart and I will set the response, and this will happen only once. Whenever this my app component actually renders, then only it will happen. So let me explain how this works behind the under the hoods. That is, see, our commerce.js retrieves a cart. And how does it retrieve the cart? So it first checks our cookies in the browser that is there a cart in our cookies. If not, then it creates a new cart. Okay, and then when the user loads our site for the first time, then this cart is getting created. Okay, and let's say suppose the user actually adds to cart 1 or 2 items. Okay, and then he closes this site, and then after 2 or 3 days, or even after 5 or 6 days, he opens our cart. Then you can still see that when he opens our site, then he can still see that our cart has those 2 or 3 items he added earlier. Okay, so to have these benefits, our commerce.js uses is it stores this cart in a cookie system, in our server's cookie, site's cookie, browser's cookie. Okay, here I will create some handler functions for our cart. Now I have already added these handler functions here. They are not tough to understand, so let me explain them one by one. So add to cart is basic adding items to cart. So this will be an async function, and here we will pass product ID as our parameter, and then we will actually await the response from commerce.cart.add, and we will pass product ID and 1 as parameter. So what will happen under the hood is commerce.js will create a cart, and there it will add our product whose ID we are passing, and quantity will be 1 of that product that will be added to our cart, and then it will return a response. This response will have a cart property, and we will set our cart, which is this cart, we will set the response.cart, and then we will return nothing. So similarly with the update quantity, we will do something like that, async, then product ID and quantity. We will now call commerce.cart.update function, and there we will pass our product ID and an object which will have quantities, the quantity we are desiring, and this will return a response as well, and this response will be set. So what happens under the hood in this function is commerce will
commerce.js will get its cart, and then it will update the product whose ID we are passing inside that cart, and update what? Update the quantity we are passing. Okay. Now then we will have remove item, so we will again call the cart.remove function and we will pass the product ID. So under the hood, commerce.js will remove this product whose ID we are passing from our cart, and then it will return a response as same like previous functions, and we will set our cart the response.cart. In the empty cart, respond with some response, so we will call the cart.empty and no parameters are needed in this function. And then we will again set cart response.cart, and the refresh cart will be cart.refresh. Why empty cart and refresh cart? Inside this empty cart, the cart's ID remains same, and here the cart remains same, only the products are deleted. All the products are deleted. And in the refresh cart, the cart is recreated. So here inside this component, we will now pass those as props. So the first thing I will pass is cart. Then I will pass add to cart. I will pass those one by one. Update quantity, remove item, empty cart, refresh cart. So I will pass those one by one. So I have passed those one by one: cart, add to cart, update quantity, remove item, empty cart, and finish. Now you might ask that why do we need to pass them? That is because I want this cart to be available to all the pages. So say index page will have our cart and its cart handlers such as add to cart option, so that all the products we are displaying in our index page, we can add a button of add to cart, so that our user, when he visits the page, he can add to cart those products from within index page. Okay, so the next page will be cart detail page. Here we need our cart. Also we will create later a navbar component, then also we need that cart there. Then we will create another page, checkout page. There also we need our cart. So that is why I am moving this cart to the top level of my component. Our index page only needs add to cart, so we will only get add to cart. Okay, and say now I create a page known as cart.js. So this cart.js page will need this cart, update quantity. Also we will import empty cart. I will go back to index page, and here we are actually accessing this add to cart as prop from app. So where will I use it? So I will use it in all products list. For now, temporarily, for now I will use it as on click event. So what will happen is, whenever we click this li that is listed under all products, then that product item will be added to cart. In a future video, maybe in the next episode only, I will create a complete product component which will render not only the name, the price, and the add to cart button also, and it will also be working for this category list and also for the search results. But that is in the next video, not this video. Okay. So what I will do is, I will create an empty arrow function, and here I will actually add to cart. And to add to cart, what we need? We need a product ID. So how do we get the product ID? So here is the product, and here dot ID. That's it. So after that is done, I will again go back to app.js, and here inside this add to cart, I have console.log response.cart. Why? Whenever we add this cart, we can actually see what is the response, and this will be needed for us to mock our cart. And why do we need to mock our cart? So for that, to understand that, we need to create a cart.test.jsx. Now I am creating this again inside the this _tests folder. Why? Because this is a page and not a component. To import React, we will import our component. Now we will create our first test suite for this test, that is, and we will label it as cart page like this. Inside this, I will create my first test, which is render. Now I will go back to this, and as I said earlier, cart detail will render the total price of the cart. So I will start by doing that. Render total cart price. The first step, essential step, is to render our cart detail. Now, to render our cart detail, we need some props. Those props are cart, update quantity, and empty cart. Now, update quantity and empty cart those are functions, right? So those functions can be mocked using jest.fn. So this creates a mock function. This will also be a jest function, but we need to mock our cart, right? So how to mock our cart? So for that, I will first of all save this file, and we don't need to run our tests right now. I'm running my dev server, so I will go back to this page and I will load this page, and then, as I said, we will inside this all products list, I will click on any product and it will be added to our cart. So I will add monitor, I will click on it, and after a few seconds you can see that here will be a response logged, that is logging from our app.js, and here you can see the cart is logged. So it has a created property, currency property, discount, expires, so the ID of that cart, line items. Inside this line items, this is an array, and inside that array is our product. There is the subtotal and also total items, total unique items. So I will use this data to mock our cart. And where will we mock our cart? As I said in the previous episode, I will mock our cart in mock data. So I pasted this mock cart over here, and you can see we have an array of line items, total unique items, total items, subtotal. So what I will do here is I will not import it. Now after rendering, what do we need to test? We will expect that screen dot get by text cart total price. And what is the total price? If you see here in the mock data, the total price is 3950. So I will be rendering this one only. So not only that, I also want to test that it also renders a list. So for that I will do something like constant line items. So it renders all the line items. Okay, so for that I am doing this. So line items will be screen dot get by role list, and this list I will give it a name of cart items. And not only that, I also want to see inside this mock cart we have two line items. Okay, so I will expect that it will render two line items. So how to do that? To do that, we will use constant get all by role, within which we need to import within this line items list. I will actually get all by role, so I will do something like list items, which would be get all by role list item, and then I will assert that this list items dot length should be equal to 2. Okay, and now if I run tests, it will fail. We know that. So I will start running the test, and meanwhile I will go back to my cart page and we will start programming that. Okay, so the first thing I will do is I will get back to index and I will copy this head and title and all. So I'll copy this and paste it here. Now for this to work perfectly, we need to also import head. So I will import it from here, and then after that is done, I'll do something like main, and inside this main we will check that is there cart. If yes, only then we will render our stuff. So I will use React fragments, and then inside this React fragments, the first thing what we need to render is, let me close this index.test.jsx for now. So what we will do is, I will also close app.js. We want to render cart total price 3950. So for that to happen, I will render h4 I guess, and here I will write cart total price, and then now if I open mock data once again, you can see that mock cart has a subtotal, and the subtotal has a formatted with symbol. So we need to do that, and then I will actually render a list as well. So for that I will do something like UL. Now for the UL to have the heading of h4 only, and let's make this actually h3 cart items heading, and it will also have an ID of cart items heading. and here it will be labeled with the same thing, cart items heading. Inside that we will map our line items, so cart.line item.map list item. This key will be item.id and item.name here, right? And I expect that my tests will now pass. Now as you can see, our tests are passing now. So I will go back to our browser and make sure your dev server is running. So I will go to cart URL /cart and boom, here is nothing. I mean, it is displaying nothing. If I go to elements tab and if I open the div with the ID of _next, there you can see it is showing an empty main. Why is that? Okay, so that is because of my error. Inside this app.js, instead of response.cart, it should be just response, but it should be response.cart for other handler functions. Okay, so only for refresh cart it will be response, and for others it should be response.cart, and only this use effect should be response. Okay, so that being said, let's open up, and now you can see the cart total price is 500 and cart items is a monitor. So just because we clicked monitor previously, so that is why. And if I go back to my VS Code, the tests are still passing. Okay, the 2 test suites passed and 6 total tests have passed till now. Then I will write my next test, which will be that it renders message. If I show you that, you remember I say that it will render a message that please buy something from our store if our cart is empty. So to add that functionality, I will write a test for that. It renders message if cart is empty, and then I will create a arrow function here. The first things first, I will render, but here instead of rendering the cart detail with mock cart, we will render a empty cart. Then we will have update quantity and empty cart will be same. I will check that screen.getByText something, that text is visible here or not. To pass this test, what we will need to do, we need to go back to our cart place, and here instead of this double ampersand, I will use this question mark, and instead of closing it, I will use the colon. These are the ternary operators, so in colon I will write something like p tags. Here I will write please. Okay, and let's see the test. So if the cart is empty, it will still have this subtotal, ID, line items and all. Okay, but the subtotal will be 0 instead of this amount here. So for that we cannot pass it here like that. So I will do one more thing, that is I will copy this subtotal line and this line items. So I will just copy both of these and I will paste it here. Now the subtotal will be 0 and the line items will be an empty array. And now the text will pass, but it will not render this exactly. This will not render out please buy something. It will rather render cart total is 0. So to pass that, what I will do is I will go back to the cart here and I will check cart is present, and then I will check that cart.subtotal.raw is greater than 0 or not. If it is greater than 0, that means our cart has some item, and if our cart subtotal is 0, that means our cart is completely empty. So if our cart has at least a product, then our cart is not empty. Then we will render this, otherwise we will render please buy something from our store. Now our test should pass, and our test is passing. As you can see, both of our tests have passed. And if I go to our browser, you can see that we have a cart total. So as you can see here, inside our cookies, in this application tab, you can find this cart here with the value, right? And now it is showing it. Now we are doing this manually. Later on we will add an empty cart option here, to empty our cart and see that we can see this please buy something from our store message can be seen. So right now what I'm doing is I'm clearing this cookie. Okay, so this cookie is cleared, and now I need to refresh this page. And as soon as I refresh this page, you can see here please buy something from our store. That means our cart does not have any element, any product right now. Okay, so when our cart does not have any product, then it will show this message. And now one more thing that I want to show you, I will add some product. So let's say add keyboard, and after I have added it, I'll come back to cart once again, and you can see that it waits for some seconds. So let me refresh this page once again, /cart, and you can see that it shows please buy something from our store for some seconds, and then it shows this. But that indicates that our cart is empty, but our cart was not empty. Why was that showing? This is because this line, this cart and so why this cart and means our cart is not undefined, and only then we will check that also our cart.subtotal.raw is greater than 0. When the page loads for the first time, let's reload it again. So when our page loads for the first time, what happens is our cart remains undefined for a few seconds, and then it gets that object from our app. Okay, so that during that time it will show please buy something from our store, but that is a misleading message to our users. So how can we fix that? So to fix that, I came up with a solution. That solution is I will delete this cart and from here, and I don't want to render this entire page if our cart is undefined. And what do I want to render? So if our cart is undefined, show loading, and when our cart is defined, only then we will show this page, right? So let's see it now. So now if I refresh this cart once again, and now for a fraction of seconds you can see loading, and then you can see this cart total price, right? So this is what we intended. And also one more thing, I have wrote a test, a simple test, that is it renders a loading if cart is undefined actually. So if we pass here undefined, then our test should actually pass. And let me run my tests, and you can see my test is getting passed. Now I don't want to test this, so I will delete this. This was just to show you that if our cart is undefined, then also it passes. So it is actually rendering, so we don't have any problem with that. Okay, so the test till now we have written is these two tests. The next test will be, does it render the line items properly? I will render my component, so I will render this cart detail. I will assert that screen.get by text, as I said, this format. Let me show you the mock data as well. So here the first item has rupees 850, so we will write that one first, 850, then multiplied, then the quantity. What is the quantity? It has the quantity of 2, then I will render the quantity, that will be 2 equal to, what is the line total? That is 1700. I will say C1700. And similarly I will do the next one, which has 750, quantity 3, and the line total is 2250. That's it. Now let's write the code for our test to pass. Here I will use p tags, line items name, a small tags, and inside the small tags to item dot, as you can see, price dot formatted with symbol x, then item dot quantity, item dot line total dot formatted with symbol. That's it. Let's save this and let's see if our tests are passing. And my tests are passing correctly, so let me see it in the browser. Now you can see that
let me close this console. You can see here that it is showing 200 into multiplied by 1 equal to 200. So let me add some more cart items. Here I will add something like regular mouse and then monitor, and then once again to keyboard, and it will load for a few seconds, and then you can see that those line items are being shown here. Here it is showing really properly, and also our tests are passing. So with that being done, now we will do these buttons. So to do these buttons, I will create a div, and inside the div we will create the first button, plus icon, another button which will have a minus icon, and here I will have a span which will show the item dot quantity, right? And I did not write the test, so let me write the test also here. So we will do something like screen.get all by role button with the name of minus. We can do also one more thing, that is the quantity, and for that we don't need this get all by role. Get by text, and text can be 2, it can be 3. Let's see, our test will pass. See it in the browser, you can see that here these are working, but our plus minus buttons are not working because we haven't added the functionality yet. We don't need to test this here, but I will delete these tests. I will actually create a new tests here, so I will just copy this one. I will actually check increments quantity correctly. Make a function, mock function. So let's give it a name of update quantity. We are just.fn. So I am giving this a name so that I can use it later. I can call it here. We create a constant first item which will be a screen.getByRole list item. Now there will be multiple list items, like I showed earlier that there were multiple buttons. There will be multiple list items, but we want the first item. So for that, now this returns an array of all the list items. We will get the first element of that list item. So that is the first item. To get that, we use this thing. So I have used here with the 0 here. So to get the second item, I would have used 1 like that, right? So after I get that, I will use within. So to get that, I will use get by role within first item. Increment button will be get by role button name of plus. And one thing that I want to say here is user event. If you press you write user event and then press this dot, then you can see all the events a user can perform, like clear, click, double click, deselect option, over, keyboard, paste, select options, tab, type, unhover, upload, everything. So we need to do this click. We'll click the increment button. Now I will expect that my quantity gets updated. Also I want to expect that this update quantity, the function we are passing as props, we want this function to be called, and called with what? If you go to app.js, you can see that update quantity function gets called with the quantity and the product ID. So I will check expect update quantity called. Now I will write called with, to be called with a number. What number? So the first item, if you go to the mock data, the first item already has quantity 2. So we want, if we increment it, we want it to update to 3, and the ID of that product, so the ID is this one. I will copy this and I will paste it here. That's it. Now our tests will fail, we know that. So let's write the code to make our tests pass. So I will give an on click event listener over here. Here I will call handle update quantity with the quantity, that is item.quantity plus 1. Whatever the item.quantity will be, we want to increment it by 1. Now along with that, we pass the items ID. Now we don't have a handle update quantity, we have update quantity. I will actually create a function with the name of handle update quantity. Now why I am creating this function, you will get to know that later.
then here we will use await, and for that we need to create is an async await update quantity. I'll just copy those and paste those here. That's it. Now I expect that my test should pass right now, and now my tests pass. Now as I go back to my browser, if I increment this plus button, then after a few seconds you can see that the button is the quantity is incremented over here, and the total price is also incremented. So right now it is 1385. So if I increment this one regular mouse, you can see that the quantity is 1 over here and over here. So if I increment it after a few seconds, it will be 2, and here it is, instead of 1385 it is 1470, right? So this is working. Now one thing you might suggest me, that why don't we test that when we increment, our cart total price is also getting incremented, this is also getting incremented, and this one is also getting incremented. Now let's go back to the cart, and now I will explain you why we cannot test that one. So here if you see that we are rendering our cart detail. Now with what? With a prop of cart which has a mock cart, and this mock cart has, the first item of this mock cart has quantity of 2, that is a fixed quantity. Now when we click this button, when a user clicks this increment button, what happens is, this calls the handle update quantity function. This handle update quantity function calls our update quantity function, and this update quantity is this one. This then hits our commerce.js servers, and then it returns a response, and we then set cart, which cart? This cart, with our response.cart. Then what happens, that is our cart has now changed. Now when our cart changes, this prop we are passing will also change. So that means the cart detail page, this prop will change, and eventually, just because this prop is changing, our subtotal dot formatted with symbol, that is the total price, will also change, the quantity will also change, and this quantity will also change, because cart is already updated or changed. So the new cart is rendering this new values. However, here we are rendering only once, and we are not updating this value in app.js and then it is rendering once again. That is not happening here. So now what we can do is, we can then re-render this, we can do this render stuff once again over here. Then we can pass the cart with the mock cart, whose value instead of 2 it will be updated to 3, and then we can test the total price, item quantity, those stuff over here, and this will then be updated. Now this is a lengthy process, and this is a futile process actually, because we already know that our cart will update, and then we will give it a more updated data, and that already know that here the total price, whatever total price, if we pass here the cart with the price, our price will be rendered. Whatever price we give it, this will also be rendered. Whatever we give it, quantity we give it, this quantity will be rendered over here. So we already know that what will happen if we re-render with a new prop. Whatever prop we pass in, it will render those data. That is what we know already. So we don't need to test here. Now that test, what you were suggesting, or you might think that if I increment and this will also increases, those kind of tests are known as integration tests. So if you go to NextJS official website, and if you go to the docs and then testing, you can find here it is written clearly that Cypress is a test runner, and it is used for end-to-end testing and integration testing, and the jest and react testing library are used for unit testing. That is what it is written in NextJS official documentation as well. So currently I am unable to find a way to test our my app component. There will be only one integration test throughout this video series, and that will be of the checkout page, and more about that in that video, which will be a later video in this video series. Now I will test similarly, but instead of this increment, we will test the decrement. So I will copy exactly the test, and instead of increment I will write decrement items quantity correctly, and instead of plus button I want it to get minus button, and instead of 3 I wanted to get 1. So the first item's quantity
here the first item's quantity is 2. That is what we are passing to the cart detail. So when we call with the update quantity, we want it to reduce to 1, right? So to make this happen, I will copy it and I will paste this here, and instead of item.quantity plus 1, I will call it with -1. That's it. And the thing here will remain the same. Update quantity will be that quantity what we are passing, and we are here passing item.quantity -1. So if the quantity is 10, then -1 9, then this 9 will be passed over here and over here eventually with the product ID, and the product ID is same. So let's save this and let's see if our tests are passing, and our tests are passing. You can see 10 tests passed total, and let's see it in the browser now. So here our keyboard has 4 quantity. So let's reduce this. So I will click on minus button, and after a few seconds you can see that our price got reduced, our quantity got reduced. So here we have 2. So if I click on minus button, then it will be reduced to 1. If I click on this on minus button, then also it will be reduced to 1, and it got reduced to 1, and the price is now 935, right? Now one more amazing thing I want to show you is, if I click on this regular mouse, if I click on the minus button once again, then after a few seconds you can see that is removed from our cart, okay, and our cart price is also reduced, and that item got removed. Now the only thing that is remaining is these 2 buttons, okay. So with that being done, our cart page will be completed. So I will go back to my cart, and here in the first test I will also write 2 more. One will be that screen.getByRole of a button whose name will be empty cart, and I will have another one, but this one will not be a button, it will be a link of checkout page. Now the tests will eventually fail, we know that. So I will go back here. I will have 2 buttons over here, and I will also group them together, empty cart, and the second one will have a anchor tags. This anchor tags will have checkout. Now to have successful anchor tags, we also need to import link. So import link from next/link, and then we will wrap those with link as well. There will be /checkout. Now we don't have that page yet. Then I will save this, and I will open up my terminal to see my tests are passing or not. And I will also open up my browser. I will close this window, and I expect that this page will be reloaded, and here we can find these 2 buttons over here, and on hovering on one of the button we will see the link down below, and our tests are passing correctly. Now I will write the last test of this video. Empties our cart when clicked the first step. Remember, copy this and render it here. Instead of update quantity, we want here to be empty cart. Instead of update quantity, here I will pass just.define, and here we want to see that this test is for to see that our cart is properly getting emptied. User event dot click, and click what? It will click screen dot get by role of the button. Name is empty cart. We will expect our empty cart function to be called, and it will not be called with anything, so we just want it to be called, right? So here in the button click, we can simply write empty cart here. See if our tests are passing now, and my tests are passing now, right? I will go to the browser. Here if I press the empty cart, it should empty our cart, and now it's showing please buy something from our store. So that means our cart is getting emptied. So here is the last question, that is, why did we create this handle update quantity? Remember I said I will explain it. So now the time has come. So if I go to this page, home page, and I actually add 2 items to the cart,
I have added monitor and keyboard. Then I will go to cart, then it will load, and then you can see that we have monitor and keyboard. Now on pressing this plus icon on monitor, you can see we wait for some seconds and then the stuff gets updated over here. Okay, so if I press this, say 1 2 3 4 5, it got updated only once also, but I pressed it 5 times, right? Now this let me explain this once again with this icon keyboard. So I will press it so many times, but you will see that it only gets incremented one time. And you saw here a change slightly 2, then 3, then 2 again, then 3 again. You will saw there. So these are some undesirable behavior, and the end user who is using this site, he might be frustrated with this, or he might not like this. He might not be comfortable with this, and this might be a problem. The end user is not understanding that what is happening here. So he is pressing the buttons, but it is only getting updated once. So what is actually happening? So he is not understanding that when we press a plus button, it will hit commerce.js server and then return. So it takes some time. So that is a problem. So how to fix that problem? Now here I will introduce loading states, and I will use state which I have already imported, and initially it should be false. We'll do something like true, and then copy the same line and turn it to false. So what will happen is when we click, this handle update quantity function will be called, and then it will be set to true. Now as the commerce.js server return a response or do something like that, then only after that we will set here. What I will do is inside this div of button room, I will actually conditionally render the loading. So if the loading is true, then render something like updating or text. Otherwise I will render a empty React fragment where I will copy all these buttons and then save it. And let's see it in action now. So if I press the plus button over here, then it is showing the updating, and then it gets updated to 7. If I press the minus button, it is again showing updating. So we cannot even press that plus button over here. So then the user is actually getting a visual confirmation that updating is happening. So wait for a few seconds, then the buttons will again appear, and then you can press it again, right? Now here is also another problem, that is keyboard is also showing updating, but keyboard is not updating. We are updating just the monitor. Then why is keyboard showing updating? That is because we are setting here loading states, right? Now when I click a particular button, when I click say for monitor, the loading is set to true here, but when we are just mapping these line items, so loading is true. Now for both the line items, so it will set that updating to both of them. How to tackle this problem? To tackle this problem, I will make this undefined, this one also undefined. Here instead of setting loading to true, I will set it to product ID. How will that help us? So here we will check that. So when we click this button, handle click, it will set that loading of product ID. So we will check this is loading triple equals to the item.id that is mapped here. So when I click on the monitor, I want to check that, and there are two items showing, monitor and keyboard. When I press the item plus button on monitor, then the monitor's ID will be set to handle update quantity, and then it will be set as loading. So if loading is equal to the item ID that is matching, that is a monitor, then it will show updating. And if the item ID does not match, that means it is not monitor, that is keyboard, mouse, whatever, then it will show these buttons. If I press the monitor over here, you can see updating, and the keyboard is not showing any updating. If I press here, then you can see this here. Now with that being done, if I open with my terminal, you can see that my tests have passed, but there are lots of error warning and update to cart detail inside test was not wrapped inside act. And this ensures that you are testing the behavior a user would see in the browser. And what is causing this error? This set loading. So what do we need to do to get rid of this error? So let me explain it to you. We are rendering these buttons over here, and when we click any of this button, then it calls this handle update quantity, which actually sets loading. And when this loading is set here, this state, then depending on that we will show a text or these buttons. And then this loading is again set back to undefined, that means we will show the buttons now instead of this text. So this, when you do something like this in our React states, that is when we update our state in such a manner that it affects our rendering, then these acts warnings are shown normally. So to fix those, these are the tests that call the update quantity, and that is why those errors are coming. So what we will do here is we will actually say make these tests async tests, and then here we will call await wait for element to be removed. Now why wait for element to be removed? See here that we are first setting our loading, so that means this element is being shown here, right? And then this element will be removed eventually, because we are setting the loading after our quantity is updated. We are setting loading back to its original state, and then this element will be removed, this updating will be removed, and instead these buttons will be shown again. So that is why we will wait for this updating to be completely removed. Instead of waiting for that updating to be shown, we will wait for that updating to be shown and then completely get removed. So we will do that in one step, that is wait for element to be removed dot get by text, that is updating. The same thing for the decrement function as well. And then I will also import this wait for element to be removed, and then save this. My tests are showing no warnings, so let me completely run this test from scratch, so to show you that those tests are not having any errors at all. So you can see here that there are no warnings at all. So I am going to explain this once again. We are rendering this cart component over here, and here this button, when we click on any of this button, this calls this handle update quantity, which makes this loading equal to this item.id. So that's why our buttons get disappeared and this updating is shown over here, right? And then as soon as we update our quantity, hit our servers and returns a response, we then set our loading back to its original state. So that means the updating is removed and these buttons are shown once again. So when this happens, our React testing library throws this act warning. To fix that, we need to wait for, so just because our clicking this button is causing all this, that this button will get disappeared, this text will be shown, and then this text will be disappeared, and this button will be shown once again. So this is just caused because we click our button. So we will go to that test where we click those buttons, and there we will, at the end of this test, we will actually wait that our element, so we will wait for this element to be removed, and then our React testing library will not throw any warning at all. So if you read these articles, you can find out why those errors actually happened in the first place and how to fix that. I have already shown you and I have explained why it happened in my case. Now, and also one more thing, that he is the creator of React testing library, so make sure you give a read to this article. I will link that down in the description.
Till now we have this index page, that is home page, where we can search for products, and also where we can search for products, and also if I click on any of this product inside this all products list, that will be added to our cart. So if I go to /cart, it will show this loading indicator first, and then it will show our cart, and we can increment or decrement the cart, which will show this visual confirmation of that it is updating. And like that we can empty our cart, we can go to checkout, which is not created yet, and like that. Show you the empty cart functionality like that. In the next video, what I will do is I will create a name bar, so that we don't need to type every time to go to our cart page and to get back to our home page. And also I will create product component which will not only show this name, it will also show the price and add to cart button for the products in the category listing as well as the products in this all products listing, also for all the products inside the search result listing. Okay, thank you for watching this video, and to all my subscribers, thanks for supporting. See you in the next episode.